What's up YouTube, Mike here with Padbangers.com, today with a new gear check, and today we're going to explore the Arturia Drumbrute, a full analog drum machine. We will check out the sounds, the features, and we will talk about the pros and cons. Let's go! Alright, so here it is, the Arturia Drumbrute. It's a full analog drum machine containing 17 analog sounds, no samples included in here. The price point is $450 US. Pretty fair price for the package you get here. First, let's talk about the quality. If you know the Mini Brute, it's exactly in that category of quality. You got this real wood end cheeks here that are really nice. Also, the knobs here are just the same as on the Micro Brute. Nothing is wobbling or feel cheap. It's really solid quality. The housing here, I think it's plastic, but it's very solid and sturdy. I have no complaints about quality here. Also, the pads feel very nice and responsive. Also, the step sequencer, everything you touch here feels like a good quality. Again, it's nothing here to complain about. Now let's talk a little bit about the connectivity, because that's really nice. We got USB, MIDI in and out, clock in and out, so you also can hook it up to your external gear like your modular or your vintage synths or whatever it is. Then we got 12 single outputs for the instruments. Now, not every instrument has its own output. They're grouped logically together. Then we got mix output, and we got a 1/4 inch and an 1/8 inch headphone output with independent level control. Now, when you use one of the single outputs, it will be removed from the mix output as well as from the headphone output, which might be a bit problematic in a live scenario. I would prefer it if you still get the sum to the headphone and only the mix output without the single outs, but it is what it is. It's not a problem in the studio, but in a live scenario, I think it could be a little bit problematic. Then let's talk about the sounds real quick. We got 17 sounds. We got 2 independent kick drums, and they're both very different from the character. So the first one is more like an 808 style kick drum. The second one is a little bit more punchy and dry. Then we got a snare drum, also very close to an 808 snare. There's a little bit more noise mixed in when you turn up the snap level. Then we got a clap. Then we got a combined channel for rim and clave. And clave doesn't have a tone control, it's only level. We got closed and open hi-hats. Now these are a little bit special. These are exactly the same engine, so there's no real difference between closed and open hi-hat. In these both tracks here, they choke each other, so you get this realistic hi-hat effect. But aside from that, it's exactly the same engine, so you can have two open hi-hats, two closed hi-hats. I heard a lot of people complain about the sound of the hi-hats because they prefer more an acoustic sound of the hi-hat. This is really, it's like a metal sound. But honestly, I don't think that's a problem here. It's not an 808. It should have its own character, and that's exactly what gives it its own character. At first, it wasn't my cup of tea as well, sound-wise, but when you play around with it, you find your sweet spot, and you can get a very decent hi-hat sound. In my case, it's I like it the decay all down to 0, so really really short, and then the pitch between 11 and 12 o'clock. That's where I like the hi-hat sound, and the same goes for the open hi-hat. I just turned it to the same pitch amount, turn them to the same volume, and just increase the decay a little bit. So in that case, I don't think it's a real problem with the hi-hat sound here. And I will show you another way I use these hi-hats or these tracks when I produce, if I need another sound, but I will talk about that in a minute. Then we get two sounds for the toms and the congas. Now these are also combined channels, and for the combined channels, I have to say they work independently, so you don't have to decide between conga and tom. You can use both, you just don't have control for both at the same time. So you select the type, but then you have full control over them, so you can either have a conga or tom. Let's solo this real quick. By the way, we can solo and mute all sounds, and these are saved stats, so when you deselect solo, it turns back to normal. When you hit solo again, it remembers the tracks. The same goes for the mute channel, so that's pretty nice. The same goes for the low tom. So you have control over both sounds, and you can use them at the same time. They just share a track. Then we got a cymbal sound and a reverse cymbal. And the reverse cymbal is also very unique for an analog machine. I don't know if there's any other analog machine out there that can do it. So nice little effect here. Also, if you don't like the sound of the closed hi-hat, if you use the cymbal and turn the decay all the way down and use the tone around 3 o'clock, you also get a really decent hi-hat. Also at 10 o'clock it sounds really good. So yeah, that's also another way to get a new hi-hat sound. Then we get a maracas and tambourine channel combined. Maracas also have no control. These sound always the same, just a volume control. For the tambourine you have a decay control. On the last track we have a zap sound. And with a really low pitch, if you turn down the decay, you get another percussive sound out of this. So these are the sounds. Now let's go to the step sequencer and the other features we have in here. With the step sequencer, you have a lot of patterns you can use. 16 bangs with a total of 16 patterns. So that's a lot of stuff you can use here. And let's go and erase a pattern. So you have several options for, you can erase songs, bangs, patterns. Let's erase the first pattern. So we start with a blank pattern. Now there are two ways to use your instruments in the step sequencer. You can either record it here via the transport control, or you can just use the step sequencer and use the step or accent modes. Let's start with a simple kick. I use the accent mode here. Let's bring this in, 4 on the floor, and let's use a snare on the 5 and the 13, and we use another step here on the 10. Let's play. Now if you want to shorten your pattern, you can use the last step button and just hit any number here, for example the 9 or 8. So 8 is the last step, and you have. And what's also really nice is there's a polyrhythm feature. So let's bring the last step back to 16 and let's use some polyrhythmic with a maracas. Yeah. And with that, polyrhythm, by the way, works when you hold down shift and click on step 16, then it's activated. And polyrhythm works for each track, so you can have different pattern lengths for each instrument. Now I'm gonna use it like this. I use 2 in the beginning, like. And now we use the last step button to shorten that, and I will say the last button is number 6. And that way you have really quickly a nice variety every time it loops the pattern. There's also another way to bring in some variations here, and this is with the swing and randomness knobs. And these also can set, these can be used globally or for the current track. And this is also really nice. Let's see, deactivate polyrhythm here, and let's just use the first downbeat here for the maracas, and let's play it with current track on the randomness and increase it. By the way, you see the value of the randomness here in the display, in the little display next to the transport control. We also can use the randomness on the whole pattern. This is very, very nice if you play and you need a quick fill for your drum loop. You let it go, and then so you have a very quick fill when you live perform. Really nice. Same goes for swing. You can use swing globally or for the current track. So let's use a clave here, and we just dial this randomly in. Let's solo this real quick, and now use the swing. You also can shift notes when you hold down the step and turn the swing knob. Maybe let's do this on a snare drum. also can do it to the other direction. So that's also really nice if you want to create some groove and offbeat stuff. It's really nice to use on hi-hats and stuff, so they give it a little bit more humanized feeling when you program it. Alright, what else do we have? Of course, we have a filter in here. It's a multimode filter with low pass and high pass, and you have controls over cutoff and resonance, and what's really nice is a bypass button. So let's turn it on, use it in a low pass mode. So when you're in live performing mode and you perform like a drop and you want to bring in some cutoff and resonance and you want to quickly get out of it, you don't have to use both hands on the knobs and turn these back to the default values. If you just have to hit one button and you're back to normal. So that's also pretty cool. Alright, what else do we have? We got the step repeat button. This is also very nice if you perform live. Let's go to another pattern. Let's find one. Here we go. You can also use this feature to record notes in. So let's say I want to have 16th notes with the cymbal. Just go to record. And you just record it in. So pretty simple, pretty fast, nice feature here. Alright, so these are the basic functions. Oh, of course you got also a metronome. If you record stuff in, that's pretty cool. And what's also really nice is the metronome has a single output, so you can take that signal and put it on your headphone as a click track if you're live performing, so that's also really nice. So yeah, these are the basic functions. Of course, there's a little bit more, like copy and paste patterns, increase pattern length and stuff like that. This would go too much into detail. This is really like stuff that you can read in the manual. One trick that I wanted to show you is what I really like about here is it's not only a great drum machine, it's also a fantastic MIDI controller, because all the pads and the step sequencer can send out MIDI values. And let me show you something here in Ableton Live. I set up a quick drum rack with only like 808 hi-hats. And what I like to do is, if I need another hi-hat sound and I don't like the sound here, or another snare sound would work just like the same, I turn down the levels here and I route the Drumbrute MIDI to my drum rack and just let it use the sounds in my drum rack. As you can hear, it works right off the box. So let's just put in some hats and use the random feature. And play back. So if you don't like a sound in the track you're working on in the studio, just mute that track and only use the MIDI to control your drum rack. And it feels just like any other track on the Drumbrute. So that's really nice. Alright, so that's it, the Arturia Drumbrute analog drum synthesizer. In my opinion, a really nice machine, especially for the price below 500 bucks. Even if you don't like the hi-hats and the cymbals and stuff like that. Again, you can use it with any sound because it also does MIDI and you can bind both worlds, which is really nice. And for that price, I don't know, there's not much competition out there. You could get a Volca Beat, which is even closer to that 808 sound, but it's tiny and fiddly. It's not much fun to use in standalone mode, in my opinion. What else do we have? Like the Akai Rhythm Wolf. Don't get me started on that. I would never recommend this thing. And everything else is more than 500. Maybe the Tier 8, which is not analog, it's digital. So that's also hard to compare. But aside from these machines, I don't know, everything else would cost you a lot more money. So if you like the sound, go and get one of these. I think you won't regret it. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. If you have questions, shoot me some comments. If you already have a Drumbrute, let me know what you think about it. Shoot me some comments. I'm always happy to chat with you guys. You can also come over to facebook.com/Padbangers, leave me a comment there or send me a message. Always good to meet new people. I hope to see you guys next time. Mike, padbangers.com. Peace out.